Welcome to Relation Tales. Please like this video and subscribe to Relation Tales. We're grateful for each and every one of you. Let us know where in the world you're tuning in from. We'd love to hear from you in the comments. Let's begin. I didn't need a confession. I didn't need to see her lips on his or catch her in some half-dressed mess of excuses. That night, I just looked in her eyes and I knew. Her name was Marissa. We'd been married for 6 years, long enough for our routines to feel like rituals. Friday night was supposed to be our night: roast chicken, dry red wine, a new show we pretended to be interested in while our feet found their way onto my lap. And for a long time, I thought that meant something. I thought it meant we were still trying. That night, I grilled her favorite rosemary garlic chicken with caramelized carrots and buttered corn. She didn't look up once. She sat at the kitchen island, half leaning on her elbow, her phone glowing against her face like a secret she wasn't ready to share. I watched her smile at the screen, a small, private kind of smile, the kind you don't share with your husband when it isn't meant for him. "What's funny?" I asked casually, plating the food like a damn chef at a 5-star restaurant. She blinked, startled, almost like she forgot I existed. "Huh? Oh, nothing. Just talking to Chloe," she said. Chloe, her best friend. Sure. I sat across from her. "What's she up to?" Her thumb paused for a split second before she responded. "She's having a party tonight. Her boyfriend's throwing something low-key, just a small group." "That's cool. Where?" She picked up her fork and started to eat fast. "At Jace's place." The fork froze midair in my hand. "Come again?" She didn't meet my eyes. "It's nothing. Just his house, because it's bigger." "Jace," I said his name like a disease. "Your ex-fiancé, Jace." Her sigh was long and exasperated, like I was the one being unreasonable. "Oh, for God's sake, Noah, it's not like that." "It's not like what?" "Like the woman I married is going to party at her ex's house without telling me until I happened to ask." She stood, took her plate to the sink, and turned the water on like she could drown out the conversation. "I'm not asking for permission, Noah," she said, her voice cold and sharp. "I'm telling you I'm going." I stayed seated, both hands folded over my knees, my jaw clenched. "Then hear me now, Marissa. If you walk out that door tonight, don't bother walking back in." That got her attention. She turned to face me, one brow raised. "Are you threatening me?" "No, I'm setting a boundary," I said, voice calm, dangerous. "I'm done being your second choice." She laughed. Not out of humor, out of arrogance. She thought I wouldn't follow through. She left. No hug, no hesitation, no pause to check my face. She just grabbed her purse, slung it over her shoulder, and vanished out the front door like a ghost stepping out of its own grave. And in that moment, I felt something crack. But it wasn't anger. No, anger would have been too human. What I felt was something colder, a kind of death inside me. She wasn't just leaving for the night. She was leaving the marriage. And the sick part? She didn't even realize it. I sat alone for 20 minutes. No sound in the house but the ticking clock and the hum of the fridge. My food went cold on the table. I didn't touch it. What was the point? Then the phone buzzed. 8:34 p.m. Just got here. It's really chill. Don't stress. Love you. I stared at the message, a digital pat on the head, as if a couple of words could reverse the damage she'd done. I didn't reply. 10 minutes later, another ping. 8:45 p.m. There's a bonfire. I'll text you later, okay? Bonfire. Great. Maybe they'd dance around it like they did in college. Maybe she'd lean a little too close. Maybe he'd remember the way she used to kiss. I stood, grabbed my coat, and walked out without another word. If she wanted to play games, I'd learn the rules fast. She wanted freedom? Fine. So did I. I ended up at a place I hadn't visited in almost a decade. The Dive Yard, a bar clinging to the edge of town like a secret only the lost ever remembered. Inside, the air smelled like spilled beer and stale perfume. The jukebox crackled out an old song about heartbreak and revenge. I ordered bourbon, neat. That's when I saw Elena. She wasn't dressed like she wanted attention. She didn't throw herself at me. She was just there, sitting at the end of the bar, sipping something dark and strong. She looked tired, but not broken. Our eyes met, and for the first time in a long time, I remembered what it felt like to be noticed. She nodded toward my drink. Rough night. I chuckled. You could say that. She smiled. Want to talk about it? No, I said. But I wouldn't mind forgetting it. That was the first real moment of the rest of my life. We talked. We laughed. Nothing inappropriate. Not yet. But I felt it in my gut, the shift, the pull of something new. Meanwhile, Marissa kept texting. 10:21 p.m. Hope you're okay. It's not what you think. 12:14 a.m. Miss you. 2:03 a.m. Where are you? I ignored them all. By the time I got home, 4:47 a.m., the sun was bleeding through the blinds. The house was dark, quiet. I didn't go to our room. I went to the guest room, shut the door, and slept like a man finally done pretending. When I woke up, the house smelled like coffee and regret. The regret wasn't mine. The floor creaked as she moved through the kitchen, probably trying to make breakfast like nothing had happened, like she hadn't made a choice that split our marriage in half just hours ago. I lay in the guest room, staring at the ceiling, listening to the clinks and clatter of her attempt to pretend. I didn't move. Eventually, she cracked. Noah. Her voice hovered outside the door, unsure of itself. That alone told me everything. The same woman who used to throw herself across the bed laughing now sounded like she was afraid to open a door. I didn't respond. She waited, then knocked lightly. I made coffee. I stared at the ceiling. The fan above spun in slow, lazy circles. Useless. Like her words. I'll leave it on the counter, she added quietly. Then her footsteps retreated, like a storm that came too late to matter. When I finally stepped into the kitchen, she was sitting on a stool with a mug cradled in both hands. Her face was pale, drawn, hungover. Good. I picked up the coffee she left me, took a slow sip, then set it down without a word. She watched me. Noah, she said, her voice tentative. Can we talk? I pulled out a chair but didn't sit. About what? Her lips parted, but she hesitated. Last night, it wasn't. She paused again. I shouldn't have gone. I get that. But it's not what you think. I looked her in the eye. What exactly do I think, Marissa? That I went there for him, she said quickly. But I didn't, I swear. I just wanted to be there for Chloe. She begged me. She said it would be awkward if I didn't show up. I took another sip of coffee. Then why lie about it until the last minute? She looked down. Because I knew you'd react like this. I scoffed. You mean with boundaries? Her nostrils flared. I didn't cheat on you. Maybe not with your body, I said slowly. But don't insult me by pretending your heart was still here when you walked out that door. I barely made it through Hell Week. You look like you've been carrying a planet on your back, I replied with a chuckle. Just the broken remains of a marriage. She leaned in. Want to tell me about it? So I did. Every ugly detail, every hollow excuse, every time Marissa said, it's not what you think, while making it exactly what I feared. Elena didn't interrupt. She just listened. And then she said something that changed everything. You know what betrayal really is? It's not sex. It's choosing someone else over the person who gave you everything. That night, I didn't kiss Elena, but I wanted to. And wanting someone else for the first time in years was enough to make me realize I'd already crossed the line. Not in action, but in heart. Just like Marissa had. Back home, Marissa sat on the couch, pretending to watch a show she hated. She only watched reality trash when she was trying to fill the silence. Long night, she asked, eyes glued to the screen. Not long enough, I replied. She turned the TV off. This is ridiculous. We're acting like strangers. I didn't correct her. We weren't acting. She stood and crossed the room, stopping in front of me. I know I hurt you. I know it looked bad. But you're being cruel. No, I said, calm and steady. Cruelty is what you did when you walked into your ex's house after I begged you not to. Her eyes welled up. I didn't sleep with him. I nodded. But you stayed. She had no answer. I turned and walked away. The next morning, I made an appointment with a divorce lawyer. Not because I was ready to end it, but because I needed to know my options. While I was there, I learned something surprising. The house was still entirely in my name, our accounts easily separable, my business legally protected by the prenup she never read. I walked out of that office with clarity. If she had taken one more step over the line, I'd burn the entire bridge behind her. Later that week, I got a text from Justin, one of Marissa's old college buddies. Justin, 6:23 p.m. No man, I feel weird telling you this, but I was at that party. You should know, Marissa and Jace were alone in the kitchen. They kissed. I saw it. The text kept going. She left late. Real late. Long after most people had gone home. My fingers trembled. Not out of heartbreak, but out of a burning clarity. She had crossed the line. And now it was my turn. She was in the kitchen again, humming to herself, acting like things were normal. I stepped in, dropped my keys on the counter louder than necessary. She turned, fake smiled. Hey, you're back early. I watched her, silent. Then asked, did you have fun at the party? Her face stiffened for half a second. We've already talked about that, Noah. No, I said slowly. We didn't. You talked. I listened. She set the knife down. It was harmless. I already told you, nothing happened. I nodded, calm. Steady. Really? Because Justin said something different. Her color drained instantly. What? She whispered. Yeah. He was there. Saw you with Jace. Alone. In the kitchen. Her mouth opened, then closed. A storm built in her eyes, but she didn't speak. He saw you kiss him, I added, my voice sharper. She gasped. It wasn't like that. You stayed after everyone left, Marissa. She looked like she'd been punched. Noah, I was drunk. It was one stupid moment. And you didn't think that mattered? I barked. You kissed your ex, lied to my face, and pretended I was overreacting. I didn't plan it, she said, trembling. I didn't go there to cheat on you. But you did anyway. Silence swelled between us like a tidal wave. I walked past her and grabbed the folder from my bag, the one the lawyer gave me. I laid it flat on the kitchen counter. What is that? She asked, staring at it like it was toxic. Divorce papers. Marissa didn't touch the folder. She stared at it like it had claws. Her voice cracked. Noah, you can't be serious. I folded my arms. I warned you the moment you left for that party. This marriage ended. Your kiss just confirmed it. Tears brimmed in her eyes. It meant nothing. Please, it was a mistake. You made a choice, I said firmly. And now I'm making mine. She stepped closer, reaching for my arm. I pulled back. No, I said quieter now. Don't. Don't pretend this is something we can fix with tears. Her hands trembled. I love you. I let out a bitter laugh. No, Marissa. You love the safety, the comfort. But the second you wanted excitement, you ran straight back to the man who left you broken. Her face crumpled. I'll sign them, she said, almost in a whisper. But not because I stopped loving you. I nodded slowly. Doesn't matter. You already stopped respecting me. That night, she slept on the couch. I didn't check on her. Didn't offer a blanket. Didn't care. In the silence of a guest room, I felt it, the peace of a man who finally stopped waiting for someone to change. 3 days passed. She didn't sign the papers, but she didn't fight them either. We lived like strangers, passing in a hallway, quiet, cold, careful not to touch. Then, on a Thursday morning, I came home from a run and saw a suitcase by the door. She stood next to it, pale and stiff. I'm going to Chloe's for a few days, she said softly. I didn't answer. I need space, she added. I met her eyes. You've had all the space in the world. Now you'll have the rest. She flinched. As she rolled the suitcase out, she paused at the door. Noah, she said, barely above a whisper. I wish I could take it back. I looked at her, cold and unmoved. So do I. But you can't. And with that, she left. By that weekend, I changed the locks. A week later, the papers were signed. No fighting. No drama. Just a quiet drop-off at my lawyer's office. Clean. Emotionless. Like the final flick of a knife. I should have felt something: anger, relief, sadness. But all I felt was done. Word spread fast. People noticed she was gone. They started asking questions. Family, friends, even some of her coworkers. I didn't explain much. Just said, we grew apart. Let her explain her shame. Let her tell them why she kissed her ex behind closed doors. Let her carry it. That same week, I saw Elena again. This time, it wasn't small talk. She touched my arm gently and said, "You look lighter." I smiled. Feels like I dropped 1,000 pounds. She smiled back. So what now? I leaned in, just enough. Now? I stop surviving. And start living. 2 weeks later, Marissa reached out. "Marissa, I miss you. I made a huge mistake. Please, Noah, can we talk?" I didn't reply. She sent another the next day. "Marissa, I was confused. Jace meant nothing. I was lonely and stupid. Please, just one chance." I stared at the screen, then set my phone down and called Elena instead. She picked up with a smile in her voice. "You always call right when I'm thinking of you." That night, we had dinner. And for the first time in a long time, I laughed.